Where I grew up, being barefoot was the norm during the warm season. That was something that every single one of us couldn't wait to do. I don't know why. We were just very, I guess because everyone was doing it, that was the habit. Once the warm weather came around, you took your shoe off, there was 2 weeks of suffering until your foot got accustomed to being barefoot, and then it was just great. Somehow the connectivity, I guess, I mean, I'm just theorizing about that as an adult, but as a kid I just loved being connected to the ground. I think for me personally it was partially to the idea of reading a lot about Native Americans, reading about Tarzan, just about the idea of the old times connecting me to being barefoot. And I remember when I was running as part of my canoeing curriculum, I had to do a lot of running, and for some reason at one point, I must have been like 10 or so, it came to me that I wanted to do all the running barefoot one season. And I asked the coach, my canoeing coach, and he said, sure, just run barefoot if you want. And I did it the first time and I was surprised how easy it was. And then I just stayed during the entire season. That basically means from about April until about late October, I did all the running barefoot. So it just stayed in the back of my mind. Indeed, whenever I didn't run barefoot, when I was young, I didn't like running. And I grew to hate running, as you know. And then as I got older, once I read my mind around running again, it was only a matter of time before I found my way back to running barefoot. Because shoe running just didn't make sense to me. Indeed, it was a very tiny amount of time I ran with shoes. And then immediately I was running in 5 fingers and those kind of shoes, but in no time I was barefoot. When the temperature goes above 95, I don't want to expose myself to the amount of pain that it takes to be able to run barefoot. There is a certain amount of barefoot capability you can harness, you can develop if you run barefoot all the time. But there's a limit to it. Eventually, I realized that if you want to be able to run longer than 4 hours barefoot, you need to also be barefoot in your everydays much more. You need to be barefoot during the day as you walk in around on the sidewalks. That is the only way to get more capability in your foot. And then I know the same with the heat. If you want to develop more capability, I'm good up to about 95, I know that. Over 95, it gets really hard. And you can actually blister your feet up very easily. I had the good fortune of doing that a few times. So you need to kind of give yourself over to being barefoot full-time, morning till evening, I think, if you want to be able to handle that. And I live in Los Angeles mostly, so I can't do that as of now. So wearing shoes in high heat, yes. I like Luna sandals. I love the idea of Luna sandals because I've seen a lot of traditional hunter-gatherers wear similar type of footwear. So I like that. So if you call that the footwear, yes, I can see myself enjoying that. And I don't do it very often. It's still a little bit awkward, but it's okay. Extremely cold weather, when we are in the East Coast during the winter time, I run barefoot in cold as well, but sometimes it just, I opt to put the normal shoes on. Otherwise, not really. It really is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to just imagine that if you put gloves on, like one of those one big finger gloves, right? And you would try to write with that. You can write with it, you can eat with it, but it's kind of clumsy. Once you take it off, you know how much easier it is to eat with your fingers. So running in shoes is clumsy. It's annoying. It's in the way. It disconnects you. But once you do it barefoot, it's just once you develop those skills, I just don't see. Very well. I tried in the past going out there and running in shoe, and I can manage for 10 minutes and I take him off. It's just annoying. Yes, I would say Luna sandals are my favorite, and the reason for that is very interesting because it's actually thicker, the sole of it, than the five fingers. But the reason, because it's open and your feet breathes. And I don't think I've never seen any studies about this, but when you have shoes on and you run, your feet heats up. And I think the heated up foot pumps warmer temperatures up on your leg. And that's annoys the heck out of me. Having a warm foot is really, really annoying. And shoes, doesn't matter almost what temperature it is, your foot is gonna get warm. With Luna sandals, there is the breeze constantly cooling your foot, so it doesn't get heated up. So with the Luna sandals, it's colder, and I enjoy it much more because of that. Otherwise, I really like the five fingers, mobility. And I use five fingers when I need to look the part and I have to wear shoes, and I can't just wear sandals. Society accepts five fingers more. I also really like the running socks. The running socks are great because they do breathe. You feel them much more than the five fingers, like you feel the ground much more than the five fingers and much more than the Luna sandals. So I like them, but they're a little bit awkward to put them on as of now. Unfortunately, the people who designed them, I don't think they run fully barefoot. So they took measurements of people's feet who might run regularly, but they don't run barefoot regularly. So they don't understand that the width of the toe just becomes much more robust when you run barefoot. So I have a hard time. I don't have thick feet genetically, but my toes are thicker just because I have to use them while I run barefoot. So I have a hard time pulling the socks on the toes. That's the annoyance about those socks right now. Well, I think the best start is always nature. Just start it in nature, develop the self-confidence, being exposed to people while you're barefoot in nature. They're gonna be much more accepting of that. And then you can work up some capabilities. You can actually viscerally understand how it is. Because people have these ideologies about how's that to be barefoot, which doesn't meet reality. The people, what they're worried about is getting your foot cut, by glass, or getting your feet dirty. Those are, getting infections on your skin, which is exactly direct opposite to what statistically we know about people who spend significant amount of time barefoot. They have much less skin diseases versus the people who have, who wear shoes, which makes sense to me because viscerally I know how's that to be in a shoe with socks versus just, being barefoot. So I understand it, but most people can't. I've been conditioning and training and helping people run barefoot for a long time, and I've never met one person who cut their feet on glass. Yet this is the number one thing that everyone brings up. I ran in New York City sidewalks everywhere, barefoot, and I never cut my feet. Yeah, there are some mini injuries. You kick a rock and that hurts. Yeah, but I remember when I tried running, longer distances with shoe, the amount of blistering that I had to deal with, that was much more painful. Also, you look at one of the best long distance, ultra distance runners, Scott Jurek. There's a reason why he had all of the toenails surgically removed from his toe, because it's such a pain in the ass what happens to your toes when you run, with shoes long distances. Just our feet are not designed to be like that. So unfortunately, if you spend significant amount of time in shoe, your foot is shaped like a shoe versus shaped like a human foot. So no one really understands how a normal human foot meant to look. I can make my foot look that way, but as soon as I relax it, it goes back to the shoe shape as well. So the question is always, why barefoot? And my question is always back, why shoes? As long as a human being is not born with shoes on, in my book the question should always be, why are you wearing shoes when you don't have to? I wanted someone to ask me questions about barefoot running and barefoot existence who's educated in running, who has a lot of experience in running and who understands it fairly well, yet doesn't utilize it because of some of the stigmas. And I hope these questions also resonate with you guys, and maybe shed some lights to a barefoot existence, why I hold it in such an importance in my life and in what I do. And also it might encourages you, just try it a tiny bit. Even just 1 minute in a city park will be better than nothing. And then 2 minutes. And then utilize wherever you can, just take your shoes off, connect to Mother Earth, reinvigorate your feet, free up your feet, and see how's that going to affect the entire human locomotion, the body you live together with. I hope this was helpful. Please press like and write some notes down. Write down some questions if you have about barefoot running. That'd be great. And also subscribe, of course, if you haven't yet. Thank you guys. Ciao.